Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream here. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes to join in. And yeah, we will start here in just a couple minutes. So thank you for joining. Got a few more people coming in now. Let's give everybody a few more minutes to come in. There's probably a couple people downloading GoToWebinar for the first time. So thank you again for joining, and we'll start the presentation here in just a few minutes. Okay, it looks like we've got plenty of people here in the room, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome to the live stream event, Straight Talk about Earthquake Safety. I'm Derek from Red Fora, and we're really excited to connect on the evening of the world's largest earthquake drill to bring you this presentation and Q&A session with earthquake preparedness expert Steve Eberlein. Steve has committed his life to spreading the word about the importance of preparedness. He's given hundreds of presentations in front of thousands of people, cutting edge companies, even a keynote presentation at TEDx Portland, which I personally find super impressive. So yeah, tonight we're really excited to get into some straight talk about what to do during an earthquake and how some of your basic instincts might actually lead you astray. Stick around afterwards for a Q&A with Steve. You guys have submitted tons of amazing questions and we're really excited to answer those. And we'll also be sending out access to an exclusive resource center with a recording of tonight's presentation, guides, and even special offers. So without further ado, take it away, Steve.
All right, thank you, Derek. And audience, thank you so much for coming. I'm really glad you came today. I hope all of you did a drop, cover, hold drill today. That's what the shakeout is all about. I'm a big earthquake preparedness, earthquake drill aficionado. And to be very honest, it doesn't come naturally to me. I think earthquake preparedness doesn't come naturally to a lot of us because not a lot of us are very experienced with earthquakes. But I want to start by telling you about an experience that completely changed my life to help you understand why I'm so into earthquake preparedness. And then I'm going to follow that with some pretty solid tips on what you should do in a number of different earthquake scenarios. So my story starts back in 2002. In 2002, my wife and I moved to the other side of the world where we experienced something completely unexpected that we did not move there for. I want you to take a look at this.
The quake's epicenter was off the island of Sumatra in northwestern Indonesia, where more than 4,000 people are thought to have died. In Sri Lanka, officials say more than 3,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million affected.
You may not have been there, but I think we all remember the Boxing Day tsunami, which took 230,000 lives. My wife and I were there, and we worked side by side as aid workers for the entire first year of that event. And then after our 3 years in Sri Lanka, we moved back home. And our home is actually in Portland, Oregon. But it was only upon returning to Oregon, our native Oregon, did we learn that the Pacific Northwest is in the same boat as California. We're waiting for major earthquake events. And I found that people weren't ready. And what I want people to understand is that the places around the Ring of Fire, places like Oregon, places like Alaska, places like Russia, places like Japan, experience major earthquakes. We're going to keep going around the Ring of Fire, all the way down to Christchurch, New Zealand, which experienced a 2010-2011 event that they still haven't recovered from, coming all the way across to Chile, which experienced the largest earthquake in recorded history, a 9.5 in 1960. Mexico, which September 19th of 2017 and 1985 experienced major earthquakes. Same earthquake, same place, same day, 32 years and 3 hours apart. And of course, California, you've always known about your earthquakes. Your last great big one was in 1905. But it's not just the Ring of Fire that has earthquake risk. In fact, half of the United States is sitting in an earthquake zone right now. And when we look at 100 years of earthquake activity around the world, what you're going to see is a pattern. Any place that is sitting where two plates meet is at an earthquake risk. So what does it mean to be earthquake ready? First of all, it means to be ready for the shaking. And this is an obvious thing to say, but take a look around you right now. You're surrounded by bookshelves, by stereo systems, by entertainment centers. These are just mannequins. No one's actually getting hurt here, but take a look at how quickly volatile the regular objects that surround you in daily life can become during an earthquake. The very first thing that you do to get earthquake ready is to take care of the furniture problem that is in your home right now. Take a look at all those tall, heavy things that are likely to tip over and secure them up against the wall. I started the COVID lockdown by going to Safety Proof to put latches on the back of my heavy furniture throughout my house. You see right here on the back of this Chinese chest, put a couple of earthquake latches right there on the back of it. Then took a trip to the wall where it's going to sit. And the next step is you've got to take a stud finder. You put it up against that wall and you're looking for, of course, the studs. That's what a stud finder does, right? But the studs are important. It's the most structurally sound part of the wall. It's the only part of that wall that can actually hold on to a heavy piece of furniture like this. You put those latches in place, you put them through the buckles, and fingers crossed, it will hold on to that furniture. Now it's about you. What do you do during an earthquake? You drop down to the ground to avoid falling. You take cover to protect yourself from things that fall, and you hold on to whatever you are beneath so it doesn't get away from you. A great exercise is to go room by room through your house and to identify in each room, where would you drop, cover, and hold. And in some rooms, you don't have as many solutions as others. You see here in our kitchen, my daughter didn't have to have a place to go, so she went to the center of the room, grabbed a chair, ducked her head and neck under it. That way she's protecting the most vulnerable parts of her body. If you have a small child...
Ooh, whoa, earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. Earthquake, get safe.
Okay. Oh, it's okay. I got you.
If you have a baby in arms, you're still gonna drop, still gonna cover, still gonna hold, but with that baby close to your chest, that's 2 layers of protection for the baby, his mother and the table she's beneath. About the time you hit 3 years old, start doing drop, cover, hold drills with those kids. 3 years old, they're ready. They're ready, and this is my little dude, he's showing off all the time. But I'll tell you what, the moment I took my kids to a shake table, a simulator for the first time, I realized that we were having an impact. Take a look, my boys are pretty easy to find in this picture, right? They're the ones that drop to the ground during the simulation. Let's take a look at your bedroom. There are other times that we have to do other things. When you look at your bedroom, first thing, we need to take all those heavy objects and put them down lower. We need to take a look at the furniture that will tip and make sure that we don't wake up to a tipping bookshelf. We need to move our bed away from that window. If you can't move the bed from the window, then take safety film. You put safety film over that glass, and it doesn't keep the glass from breaking, but at least keeps it from shattering all over the bed. And once you wake up to that earthquake, just go face down in your bed, pillow over your head, and you're just gonna ride your bed as it visits every wall of your bedroom. Now we have to get out safely. You've got a pair of shoes right there next to your bed because there's a very high likelihood that that glass broke, put shards of glass all over the floor. For that reason, I've got work gloves and a first aid kit as well. And here's a bonus you never think of. You also should have a crowbar, because if you look back at that door, it's likely to get twisted out of shape, the frame pinching the door in place. I also keep a sweater right next to my bed because my next move is likely to go outside. If you're in a wheelchair, you lock the wheels at the beginning of the shaking, you take a book, cover the back of your head, and you hold on. And if you're driving, news alert, you gotta stop the car. You see all this oncoming traffic that still has not stopped. You're gonna stop the car in the safest place that you can find. I don't want you to be under an overpass. I don't want you to be next to a mortar building, but I do want you to stop your car, park, and remain in your car. Remain in your car because if things do fall, you will have at least the cover of your car to protect your head. If you're walking outside in a dense urban area, I'm worried about the facades of building. I'm worried about glass. I'm worried about mortar falling onto these gentlemen as they drink tea. In this scenario, I would probably run into the vestibule of a building because that's going to give you more cover. But be wary of this because other people will likely have the opposite instinct and run out of that building. That's the wrong move. In this very specific case, I think you're going to be safer inside of that building. Now, if you're in a very crowded theater, I know that we're not doing that right now, but there will be a day that you're in a theater again. And if there's an earthquake in this moment, we know it's dangerous because those people are likely to run straight for that exit. I would not do that. Too much crowding. Instead, stay in your seat, take a big breath, look right over your head. What do you see above your head? If you see a chandelier or a projector or a stereo system, you know you're in the wrong seat. Just get to a more clear seat and take the brace position like you're in an airplane. I know this all seems simple, but the problem is the smarter part of your brain, when it gets scared, it shuts down and sends decision-making to the reptilian part of your brain, an old explosive part of your brain that will tell you to do the wrong things, like follow the example of other people, even if they're doing the wrong thing. Or your old brain will have no response whatsoever, will completely freeze up, and you take no action whatsoever, like this poor dude. Or more likely than those two things, your brain will tell you to just start running until you try to find a place that an earthquake is not occurring. What you're seeing here is your brain is not wired to do the right thing, just as you can see with these broadcasters. They're not
here.
right.
We're making sure that nothing is going.
First, your brain is processing, what is this? And she's having that moment. This is an earthquake. Got it. Moving forward now.
To come down in the studio here.
And it is going for quite a bit of
very strong.
This is the moment you get scared. This is the moment that your amygdala, your old dumb brain starts
shaking. I think we need to get under the desk.
When that part of your brain is in control, you're looking to others for advice. We're gonna get a break.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Wow.
And sometimes we do the right thing, sometimes we don't. That's a classic untrained response. This is a trained response.
Coming up, more problems for a troubled
Earthquake.
Yep,
We're having an earthquake.
That is an excellent response for at least 3 reasons. For one, the quicker you act, the lesser the chance of injury. 2, the quicker you act, the lesser chance that your amygdala start making decisions for you. And 3, the quicker you act, the better influence you have on other people. That's why we do earthquake drills, to influence each other.
Cover hold, let's go.
And that is something I wish I was doing today in a big room, as I usually do every single year. But today I just had 2 virtual drop cover hold drills with different companies. But that's just to give you a bite of what is an earthquake and why do we take the life safety actions that we do. And I'm here for your questions, because I know that I could talk all day and not actually answer every question that you might have. So now I want to turn it over to y'all. What questions can I start answering for you? Derek, do you have any for me?
Yeah, so that was, first of all, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I had to get up from under my desk doing my own little earthquake drill here. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to earthquake preparedness, so I'm really excited to do more of these live streams with you. Before we jump into the Q&A, I did want to remind everybody just to keep an eye out for that email coming later this evening with a recording of this video. I know it can go a little fast. Hopefully nobody's like jotting down really quick notes, but it's going to come with a full resource center. There's going to be other guides, a great discount if you're feeling inspired to stock up on anything. Yeah, so we've got tons of great questions that were submitted. I've got some of the most frequently asked ones here ready for you. The first being, where is the safest place to go during an earthquake? And this came in a variety of ways. People wondering about at home, at the office, around town, and even while driving, which I think you may have answered that driving one a little bit with the video.
I did answer the driving one, I think. I hope I answered that sufficiently. So first of all, you don't get to choose where you are during an earthquake. I know that sounds trite to say, but you could be in your office, you could be in your car, you could be at home, you might be outside on the sidewalk, you might be inside of a building. I'm going to give you a very general answer here. I know where you want to be. You want to be in the middle of an open park where nothing can possibly fall. That's where I want to be. But the fact is, here's your exercise, y'all. You spend a lot of time, probably 95% of your time in the same places every single day. You spend time at home, you spend time at friends' houses, you spend time in your office. Start to familiarize yourself with those environments with new earthquake eyes. And if you can start making the safest decisions, that is the places that are most clear during an earthquake, the places that have the best cover that you spend time, start making the decisions for yourself of what do you think would be the safest thing, given the propensity of things to fall over during an earthquake. Once you start thinking in that way on a daily basis, you'll start to make some good decisions for yourself.
Perfect. Let's see, it looks like the next one, anything specific that you would recommend to people who might be on the 2nd floor within an apartment building, even a high rise?
So there's nothing incredibly specific. I think maybe you're wondering, should you run upstairs? Should you run downstairs? And my general answer is no. I don't want you running upstairs or downstairs, no matter where you might find yourself, because I'm afraid that whether you're running up or down, it's a shaking event. And if you're running up a flight of stairs while the ground is shaking and you fall and you hurt yourself, then the aftermath of that earthquake is going to be all the worse for you. So whatever floor you find yourself on, first, second, third, I want you to drop, cover, and hold in the safest, most clear, best protected, best covered spot in your immediate vicinity, rather than running up or down a flight of stairs.
Perfect. Let's see. The next one, I have a special interest. I love my dog. How about pets? Any recommendations for how to help get pets prepared or cope with pets during a disaster?
So let's talk about what pets do actually during an earthquake. They don't always do the same thing. I think it's likely that your pet is, if it's a dog or cat at least, I don't know what parakeets do. I think your dog or cat are likely either to run towards you or away from you, just completely away during an earthquake. If your animal runs towards you for safety during an earthquake, that's good. I think that's probably what you're hoping will happen. What I would do in that case is I would take that animal and put them to my chest, just like that woman did with her child, and get into a safe drop, cover, hold spot. That way you're able to hold your animal in place in the safest spot. If your dog or cat run away from you during an earthquake, you need to let them run. I don't want you chasing your animals around, because think of it this way: if you fall down and hurt yourself in the first 5 minutes of an earthquake, you're not going to be able to give your animals the aid that they need in the longer aftermath. So you got to take care of yourself first if you hope to take care of your animals. Other than that, I'd be thinking about a food supply, I'd be thinking about water supply, and I'd be thinking about leashes. How am I going to be able to hold my animal in place, especially during the aftershocks when they are, which is going to trigger whatever reaction they had over and over again.
Great to know. I'm very curious to see what my dog would do during an earthquake. Kind of a little bit similar. We covered it in the video a bit. Is there any way to get kids to engage with preparedness? Obviously, from your photos, it looks like you've done a great job with your family. I'm kind of curious, what if you have a kid that isn't as receptive to wanting to get prepared, doesn't think it's a big deal? Do you have any tips?
So if you're in an earthquake zone, your kids are doing earthquake drills at school. I know that a lot of us are in a situation right now, myself included, where my kids are not at school. But let's just pretend during normal times, your kids are doing drop, cover, hold drills at school. And I think the curious thing is they're probably not doing them at home as well. Kids, at least in my case, the sooner you hit kids with preparedness, and especially drop, cover, hold drills and fire drills, the more receptive they are as they grow older. So that's one thing, drill, and you need to drill with them. It's not enough to say, okay, Johnny, do a drop, cover, hold drill right now and watch them. You have to do it along with them. You need to show that you've got the same skin in the game, that you actually believe that this is safe. And the other thing is you need to talk to your kids about the risk. If you want them to be invested in preparedness, you have to get real with them about the risk of living in the Bay Area, of living in Japan, of living in a subduction zone like I do in Portland. If your kids are versed in the earthquake risk, which I know is an uncomfortable conversation, then you're building a runway to talk to them about the actual preparedness itself. I'll say one more thing about kids and preparedness, because this was an exercise we did. So it was a really bad wildfire year in Oregon, as many of you know. And so we had a go bag. Well, we always have a go bag, but we had a simpler one just for a quick evacuation. And our kids participated in that. The question was, if you can only grab 3 things to put in a bag, what do you want? So what do you value most? What are the things that you just can't be without? And that's an investment, an emotional investment, as we're exposing them to the wildfires themselves. We're watching the news with them. So that's a lot of different things. So I hope that was helpful.
Incredibly, yeah. So we've talked a lot about what to do when an earthquake starts and while it's happening. But kind of curious, after you've dropped, you've covered, you've held on, the shaking stops, is kind of the general expertise leaning towards leaving your house? Should you try to evacuate? Should you stay put? Kind of like what's next after it stops?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here's my take on what your next step is. Okay, I just dropped, covered, held, okay, and I'm still in my home. My family's right there. That's the assumption. So I think my next move would be, let's look out the window of our house. I want to see what's going on outside. If I see a if I see a gas leak, explosion, something like that, or imminent danger, I'm gonna stay inside the house quite clearly. But if I see that things look clear outside, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna take my family outside for a couple of reasons. For one, aftershocks are going to start as soon as 5 minutes after the initial quake. And my house, it got through the first one. I'm worried about the second, third, fourth aftershock, about the additional damage to my home, which is 120 years old. So I think I'm going to feel safer outside. The other thing I want to see outside are other people. We just went through a major event together. I want to see my neighbors. I want to see if people are okay. I want to digest the event and start getting on to the next steps of what we do as a community in the aftermath. Then there's some really practical things we need to think about as well immediately after. We need to think about first aid. You got first aid kits, you got first aid skills. There is going to be some need in your neighborhood. Things like broken bones, cuts. These are things that we want to treat locally if at all possible, because your local hospital is going to be completely overwhelmed. I don't even have to explain why. It's just gone through the same event that you did, and now a lot of people are running towards it at the moment that it's damaged and it's generator powered, and going to the hospital is going to be a rough show. So I want to give first aid within my neighborhood as needed. That's one big thing. Next, I want to go take a look at what's going on with with the gas going into my home. I'm going to go to the gas meter. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to smell it. I'm going to listen for gas. If I see that the dial is twirling like crazy, those are all signs of a gas leak. I would turn it off immediately if I suspect a gas leak. In most places, what I've seen, the gas company, your local gas company is probably going to say, if you suspect a gas leak, turn it off. If you don't suspect a gas leak, leave it on. But no matter what, if you turn it off, do not turn it back on. I know that's not the most clear guidance, but it's always the guidance that I see from gas companies. So we dealt with first aid, we dealt with the gas. Next, I'm looking for fires. If I see any fires around, I want to put those out immediately, because the fire is the next hazard that follows an earthquake. Typically, fires will double the amount of damage, double the amount of casualties after an earthquake. So every single teeny tiny fire, I want to put it out immediately. So what do? We did first aid, gas, fire. Last thing, I would take a sign. I'd write okay on that sign, provided that I am okay, and I'd put it on my front door. That's an important signal to my neighbors, who I hope will follow suit, because eventually someone will either put no sign on their door, or they'll actually put help on their door. And it's really important to see that you're okay and you're okay and you're okay, so that we can work together as a team to give aid to those who need it.
I love that. It's something no one thinks about, but your neighborhood is your first line of defense in many cases. Let's go on to the next question. Kind of a general one that we got in a couple different ways would be, what is something that you would recommend adding to your earthquake bag? And then also, where should you store it?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so I've got two things I would suggest, things that people don't usually have in their earthquake bag, that I would add and have added, in fact. First of all, life straws. Life straws are portable water filtration systems. I hope that you're storing water. You should be, but a life straw will give you the ability to safely drink water that is in a puddle on the sidewalk. Drinking water is going to be a premium after an earthquake, and any means I have of obtaining fresh drinking water is gold. So life straws are something that I would add. Another thing I would add is a solar powered generator. You can actually get little solar powered generators that will power up a computer, they will power up a radio, they will power up your cell phone. The ability to actually produce a little electricity to power those objects that I use every day so I can keep texting and keeping in contact with my family. I feel like that's worth $1 million. Oh, and where to put it? There's not a one size fits all, so I'm gonna give you a couple of options. So a lot of people put their kits down in the basement. That's a mistake. The reason you should not put it in the basement, I know why you do that. I know why you do that. You do that because it takes up so much room, right? Don't put it in the basement though, because if your house were to slide off the foundation a bit, suddenly those basement stairs don't go to a basement anymore. They go to just kind of like this open stairwell. And then if you can't reach the kit, it's not going to do you any good. I'd say the same thing about the attic. I wouldn't put it upstairs because your staircase may not be built to seismic standards. So first rule is put it on the main floor of your home and someplace that's accessible from the outside. Can you open the door to the backyard and reach the kit easily? My family, we actually put our kit in a shed in the backyard. It's a pretty airtight, moisture-resistant shed that has a big old lock on it. So we put all of our stuff there. If you live in an apartment, yes, you should have some things in your apartment, but you should probably have a stash of things outside your apartment as well, such as your car or your office, because you may not be able to easily get back into your apartment building or not get back into your apartment building if it's red tagged. So being able to shelter in place outside of your home is going to be a big consideration, particularly if you're in an apartment building.
Awesome. And it's not really a question. We just got a comment from Robert here, who said that he's heard very similar things about water systems as gas. Recommend isolating water in the home to stop damage and any leaks. Keeping clean water tapped into the pipes and in the hot water heater. Knowing where the water shut off is very important. Love to hear if you have any thoughts about that.
Oh, I do. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So water heaters are a great source of water, potentially. So if you've got an older style water heater, if you have a tankless water heater, you're on your own. if you've got an old style water heater, it probably holds 80 to 100 gallons of water, which is plenty. That's a lot, right? But just like Robert said, you've got to make some assumptions here. I would assume that all the water pipes outside your home have broken, and that the sewage pipes have also broken, as well as any other pipe underneath the ground. And so what you've got here is you've got a swirly mess of liquids that you don't want coming into your home. So just like Robert said, before you open a tap in your house, before you try to drain a water heater, you need to go to the water main out in front of your house. You turn it off, and what that does is it isolates the clean water that remains in your pipes and that remains in your water heater, and it keeps all the dirty, ucky water out.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. That was great. Another thing that we've heard a lot is, what if I want to make my own? What should I do? Emergency kit, that is, sorry.
Yeah, so that's what we did. We built a big old kit all by ourselves. So first thing is, let's choose the right container. And the right container is going to depend partly upon where you live. Let me explain what I mean by that. So there are different kinds of earthquake zones. There are, if we're talking about the United States, there are basically two simple earthquake zones I'm going to talk about. There's the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, then every place else, including California, New Madrid Fault, all those places. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, you're going to need to have a lot more supplies than any place else, because we're trying to get ready for a 9-point magnitude earthquake, not just the measly 8-point magnitude earthquake you worry about in California. And that means that the response time is going to be much longer. So why do I give you all that information? Because depending on how much stuff you need and how big your family is, you got to choose the right container. It might be a duffel bag if it's just you living at home. In my case, a family of 5, I've got a 45-gallon Rubbermaid tough neck on wheels that is portable and that holds most of our stuff. So first of all, let's choose the right container. Then I would get a good list. Red 4 has a great list, hence building an emergency kit guide that everyone's going to have after this presentation. And the first thing I would do with that list is walk through your home and look at the stuff that you already have. You don't have to go and buy every single last object at your local big box retailer. Some of the things that are called for, like masking tape and duct tape and hammers and an old first aid kit, and a lot of these things you already have. So a lot of it's a question of just organizing your life and making it accessible for after an earthquake. I'll say one more thing on the topic. If any of you hunt or fish or camp, you are sitting on a gold mine of preparedness items right now. You've got a tent, you've got a canopy, you've got tarps, you've got Coleman camping stoves, you've got flashlights, you've got blankets. Take all that camping stuff and just stop calling it camping stuff. This is preparedness stuff. Yes, still use it for camping, but keep in mind, when you're camping, you're practicing. This is a post-earthquake practice. That's what camping is. So before the earthquake, just keep that camping stuff with all your other preparedness stuff. It's got to come in incredibly handy.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I actually have a lot of fishing stuff, so this makes me want to go look at that in a little bit different way.
And you'll be able to get your own food source as well, Derek.
There we go. Yeah. Actually, my neighbors have a garden. I will start eyeing that in a different way as well. So we've got a couple minutes left here. Let's wrap up with one more question. So what would you do if an earthquake happens and you are separated from your family? It may not be as relevant this year with a lot of people being at home, but in the future, your kids are at school and you're at work during an earthquake. Like, do you have any tips, advice about what you might do to stay in touch during that time?
Oh, man, that's okay. You said a couple minutes. Give me a full 4 minutes, and I think it's worth it. Now, y'all, even if you don't have kids, maybe you have aging parents, maybe you have a partner. There's someone in your life or an animal in your life that depends upon you. So having a plan for separation is going to be a big part of your emotional well-being. And these are tough conversations. Actually, my wife and my delay in getting prepared, yes, we did not get prepared immediately when we moved back to the United States. It took time for us because we were not willing to have the tough conversation about what if we're separated and what if we are not nearby our small children during an earthquake. We emotionally could not cope with that conversation, but finally we did have it. And let me tell you what the solution is for us right now. So I live in Portland, Oregon, and in the middle of Portland, Oregon, there's a big old river. We got the Willamette River going right through the middle of Portland, Oregon, okay? We live on one side of the river. I have an office on the other side of the river, and my kids go to school near my office. So here's the beginning of our plan. First of all, my wife and I need to make the assumption, we've made the assumption that we're not going to be able to communicate after the earthquake. It's a tough assumption to make, but it's one that you should make so that you can start planning accordingly. So then it becomes a timing issue. If there's an earthquake during school hours, we know perfectly well that since I work on the same side of the river as my kids go to school, that clearly it's my job to gather the kids. My wife is not going to cross that river. It's my job to get them. I've got food, I've got water, I've got first aid kits in my office, enough for myself and my kids, anticipating that it may take some time to get safely across that river. And I don't want to cross the river before it's safe to do so, right? That rush to do something is part of how we put ourselves in danger. So I want to be equipped to wait. That's one of the important things about preparedness. I'm going to say it again. Equip yourself to wait so that you can make the safest decision once it becomes available. Now, other scenario is that it's after school hours, my kids are already at home with my wife, then it's simpler. Now it's just my turn to get myself over the river once I can safely do so. But here's the tricky scenario. I travel a lot for work, right? I'm going up and down the West Coast doing earthquake presentations. So now the question is, what if it's school hours, my wife's at home, my kids are at school, and I'm in San Francisco? This is the moment that your preparedness becomes a community exercise because you cannot handle that scenario all by yourself. What we did is we reached out to another family who is in the same situation. Namely, they live on this side of the river and their daughter goes to school on the other side of the river. So what do? We've negotiated and worked with our local schools so that we can swap. That is, if I'm not available to go get our kids during school day, then the Rileys have permission to go get our kids. And in exchange, we're going to do the exact same thing and go get their daughter and take care of her until we can safely exchange our children again. Part of the beauty of this is you're building a preparedness community, and also you're creating a friend, like a preparedness friend, who you can reinforce preparedness with. So we reinforce and champion the Rileys' preparedness because their level of preparedness will have possibly a direct impact on my children's own well-being.
I love that. It truly takes a village. I feel like we hear that about everything, but on that note, I feel like it's such a positive community of preparedness kind of note to end things on. I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their Thursday night to learn a little bit more about earthquake preparedness. And of course, thank you, Steve, for joining us on what is literally the only earthquake preparedness holiday of the year. Great shakeout. Love this day. Such an important time to just stop and kind of, take note of everything that we've kind of covered here tonight. We've had such an incredible response with so many people registering and submitting great questions. I know we're already checking our schedules and look forward to bringing you back here in the future and hopefully answering more questions. And yeah, so keep an eye on your inbox this evening for a follow-up email with access to that resource center. We've got great guides and even a 15% off coupon. If you've been pushing off preparedness or you're feeling inspired like I am, it's a great time to get prepared here on the Great Shakeout. So yeah, thanks everybody again and have a great evening.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Good night.